welcome back to the Iowa State Fan Perspective. As always, brought to you by Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Iowa State finally has another game this week. They take on the Arkansas State Red Wolves. We will cover that tonight. My name is Jake. As always, I'm your guys' host, bringing you each and every single week the Iowa State previews and recapping the week that was. I'm without my co-host, my brother Justin, tonight, as he's taken the night off because last week we covered the Cyhawk recap since we had no game this last Saturday. So go ahead, go back through our channel, check that video out. This one's going to be a little shorter preview. I'm just going to cover Arkansas State, kind of give you some things to look out for on Saturday, and then we're good to go. We're glad that the Cyclones are back and playing. Before we get started, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe. We want to give a shout out to our partners over at No Rivals Brand, the best hats in all of collegiate sports. They got all your different types of brands and different types of teams that they represent. If you're an Iowa State fan, unfortunately, they don't have an Iowa State hat for us yet. They just dropped Iowa about a month ago, but you can go to their link, click on teams, go to request a team. We know Iowa State fans are going to sell them out. So we just got to keep hounding them about getting a hat, and we're going to get one and sell those out for those guys. But a lot of great other teams. If you're anything like us over at Play the Fight Song, we love to rep a bunch of different cool logos and brands. And No Rivals has a lot of different options and a lot of cool options. So what we're going to do tonight is, if you guys shop at our partners over at No Rivals, drop a comment below of the prediction for this week's game against Arkansas State. Drop a score. Obviously, drop who's going to win. I think I have a hunch on who you're going to pick. If you guys get the exact score right, we will give you guys a free hat over at No Rivals. Our partner, Cam, our co-host at Play the Fight Song, Cam, does an awesome job on the Nebraska side. He started doing these for his Nebraska previews, so we're going to do them on the Iowa State side as well. Let's see if you can knock it out of the park our first week doing this. All right, let's dive into it a little bit. Who is the Arkansas State Red Wolves? If you're anything like us over at Play the Fight Song and you're a college football sicko, you're pretty familiar with the Red Wolves, who are a member out of the Sun Belt West, a team that just got done playing Michigan last week. So they were basically on national television very recently. If you had a chance to go back and catch any of that game, it was an ugly game. I didn't really take a lot away from it positively, especially for Michigan, who continues to struggle. But we're not here to talk about Michigan. Let's dive into them a little bit. Head coach Butch Jones leads the Red Wolves out. Been here since 2021. If you guys do remember, Jones was the coach over at Tennessee. God, it feels like a long time ago now. But Jones has kind of restarted his head coaching tenure over at Arkansas State. Done a decent job. It's not a program that has a ton of rich history of success, but he's kind of getting them on the right track. I believe they won 6 games last year, going 6-7, 4-4 in Sun Belt play, and now they're off to a 2-1 start. Haven't really played anybody yet. Yes, they played Michigan this past weekend, lost 28-18. We'll cover that game a little bit because I do have some takeaways that Iowa State can lean on. But they should have lost to a Central Arkansas team in week 1, 34-31. I believe they had Central. I don't want to twist this the right way, but they either had a penalty taken away or they got a call. I think it was, they had a last-second touchdown against Central Arkansas, and then that was ruled incomplete, and then the refs overturned it at home, giving some home cooking for the Red Wolves. They were able to beat FCS Central Arkansas. Little trivia question for you there. Central Arkansas's quarterback is Will McElvain, if Iowa State fans remember that name correctly. The Des Moines kid who played for UNI, I believe that was all the way back in 2019. He was a freshman just running around for his life and giving Jaquan Bailey some hell over there on the defensive line and took Iowa State off guard and almost beat Iowa State in Ames that day. They also beat a bad Tulsa team 28-24. That was a close game. If you guys had any eyes on Tulsa the other night against Oklahoma State, that's a really bad football team, man. Oklahoma State went into Tulsa and pushed them around. So 2 wins that are just not very impressive. And then you had the Michigan game on Saturday, and still then there's just a lot of question marks with this team who comes in as a 21-point underdog, giving you guys this. We're recording this on Sunday night. They are a 21-point underdog heading into Ames on Saturday. Really, who does it start with? We always do players to watch in these previews. It starts with quarterback Jalen Rayner. This was a guy who was seen as not the best quarterback in the Sun Belt, but arguably could have been top 3 or 4, and so far in 2024, he's just frankly been disappointing. Uh, Throwing for 57% of his throws. He's already got 3 picks on the year. He had another interception on Saturday. This is a dual threat quarterback who was seen as some preseason favorites to make an all conference team for the Sun Belt. Like, the guy has some legit skill. Jones relies on him a ton to run this offense, running the football and throwing the football. He's going to throw it a ton. This is a pretty up-tempo offense. They like to keep things moving. They really like to throw the ball around, and they don't care if they lose by 100 doing it. They're going to be aggressive. Rayner's usually their guy, but like I said, he's been a little bit disappointing this year, 172 rush yards. So something else to look out for. Backup quarterback Timmy McClain got in the fourth quarter last week in Ann Arbor. If you're a sicko, if you're a college football sicko and you're like, man, that name sounds familiar. He's the UCF backup from last year who transferred in. McClain played a little bit at UCF last year, played a lot in that Baylor game, had a crazy play there. If you want to go on YouTube and look that up, McClain was, I think it was like 6 for 11, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against Michigan yesterday. Now, basically against second and third string guys from Michigan, but it was a lot more productive than what I saw from Rayner. And this is a guy who's got Power 4 experience starting at quarterback. So it makes me wonder, how much do we see? Does McClain get in the game? Is there a short leash on Rayner? I don't know at this point. Rayner's always been their guy, but McClain finally got his chance last Saturday and took the most of it, like, if we're going to be honest. So really interesting to see how that shakes up for them on Saturday. Let's move to another guy. Rayner loves to throw to Corey Rucker, wide receiver for them. If you're watching some guy on this field here, Corey Rucker led this team in receptions and yards last year, had about over 700 yards. He's off to a great start in 2024. He's got 260 yards this year. He has 2 touchdowns. Again, I think he caught a touchdown on Saturday. This guy, quite frankly, he's a good playmaker. And if you guys listen to my North Dakota preview about the Belquist kid at North Dakota, and I highlighted him, he kind of, I don't want to go as far as to say he took apart Iowa State's defense when Iowa State played North Dakota, but I mean, Belquist had a lot of good catches for North Dakota, especially on that long 11-minute drive or whatever it was. So I think there's some vulnerable spots in this secondary for Iowa State, especially a young cornerback and like Javonte Williams, Miles Purchase. I know he's been around, but this isn't an A-plus group by any means, and I think it needs to get better. So look for that matchup. Look for Rucker, number 7 out there for Arkansas State. Who lines up against him? Is it Miles Purchase? Is it Darian Porter? Is it Javonte Williams? I'm really interested to see that matchup because this guy is probably the best player on their team, especially the way Rayner's playing right now. And we don't really know what we're getting at quarterback. This guy might be the best player on their team. But if you're flipping the other side of field on defense, this guy might have something to say as far as being the best player on their team. Charles Millikis, I mean, this is the leading tackler last year. I'm sorry, Arkansas State fans, if I murdered that last name, but this guy's a difference maker. As you see here, he had one of the interceptions yesterday. I think that was in the first quarter against Michigan, led them in tackles. A former Michigan State transfer a couple of years ago. He was all conference honorable mention last year. This guy's, for a team that doesn't tackle very well, he's the lone shining spot for this defense. So watch out for him as well. I think that he's going to create some havoc. Look for 36 out there in white if you're looking for a guy on defense for Arkansas State. Not a ton to highlight. Running back room for them is pretty absent. Their starting running back, their leading rusher from last year, didn't play on Saturday. Don't know if he will be playing this weekend in Ames. Look for another guy in, like, I think it's Zach Wallace is a name I want to throw out there that's gotten some carries for them at running back, but they don't run the football well. And Rayner, their quarterback, is probably their best runner too. They rely on him to run the football a ton. So that's just, their offense is really limited right now. And a Butch Jones team, they like to score points. They need to score points in order to be successful. So if we're going to give you guys some notes on this Arkansas State team, this was a team that was one of the worst defenses in college football last year. Gave up over 30 points a game. They're not very far off already in 2024. They're giving up 27 a game, 233 yards on the ground. They're giving up 175 passing yards, which doesn't seem like a ton, but the quarterbacks they've played, guys, have been pretty terrible. David Swarn for Michigan guys, he threw 3 picks yesterday on Arkansas State. He's not very good. Unfortunately, the kid from Iowa, Will McElvain, I don't think is a good passer, and the Tulsa quarterback I know is not a good passer. So they haven't played a quarterback nearly the type of talent that Rocco Becht is on Saturday. So this defense is cut out for them, and they haven't been showing up all too well already for the 3 teams that they have played. They don't tackle well. Like I kind of mentioned it when we highlighted their linebacking spot. This team does not tackle well. The running back for Michigan, I mean, just go back and watch the brief 10-minute YouTube highlights. They bounce off this. They were bouncing off tacklers, and the effort wasn't there. Makes me think like, does Iowa State want to give the ball to Sama a bunch? Are we trying to get our running backs more involved, kind of gel them in a little bit that we haven't seen so far this year? That's something to look out for. But other than that, defense isn't really good. The running back room is thin for them. It's been out all year. Uh, the last note I have on Arkansas State is the quarterback position. Like, I don't know which quarterback. Are we going to see both quarterbacks on Saturday? I think that is the biggest, I don't know, question mark, the most intriguing point into Saturday. There's not a ton of things that really pop out at your eyes when you're hosting Arkansas State. Again, I believe that is a 1:00 kick on ESPN Plus, I want to say too. So not a nationally televised game for Iowa State. Iowa State, fun fact, is the only Big 12 team that's not playing a conference game this weekend, but they were one of the only teams to have a bye week last week too. So makes you wonder where that scheduling aspect came from too. If that was like Jamie Pollard's call, if Matt Campbell had a say in that, not really sure, but I like the spot where Iowa State's at. I don't want to dive into the Iowa game. We did a 40-minute episode on that last week, but a bye week coming off of the Iowa game is a good time, win or lose. I think, at least from the fans' perspective, no pun intended, and the team, like, it feels like everybody's finally settled down a little bit after that Iowa win. Yeah, one of the more memorable games in this program's history. But it's now time to get back to business, and it's time to take care of business, quite frankly, on Saturday against a not very good team as you dive into conference play, because you have a road trip to Houston the following Saturday, whose defense has really stood out to me that can be tricky if Iowa State's not ready for that. So I think it starts with this Saturday and taking care of Arkansas State. Here it is. Let's go to prediction time. Before we do that, make sure this is sponsored by our partners over at No Rivals. Use the code PTFS at checkout. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on any Shop No Rivals hats. ShopNoRivals.com. Before I get to my prediction, again, like the video, drop a comment. What do you think Iowa State will? I don't want to say, I'm not going to jinx it. Who do you think is going to win the football game on Saturday? And drop a comment of your score prediction below for Iowa State versus Arkansas State. Prediction time from my end. Michigan was up 28-3 for the majority of that game on Arkansas State last week. It could have been worse if they had a competent quarterback that could throw the football. They ran all over Arkansas State. It looks closer. The score indicates that it was closer than it really was. Again, McClain had a couple of bullcrap touchdowns against second and third stringers. I think the defense is a good opportunity to go out there, again, really find a groove of where you left the second half in Iowa City, where you're just stopping the run on a good running back, Caleb Johnson. I'm getting after the quarterback. I'm excited that we're playing a dual threat quarterback, because I think this is a good test for Iowa State that we don't see too often. I don't know how this defensive line handles a dual threat type quarterback, whether it's McClain or Rayner. It doesn't matter to me. Both of them are good at running the football. So I'm excited for that. It won't matter to me. But we knew what we could do with Cade McNamara. You get pressure on him. I mean, the North Dakota kid couldn't throw to save his life. I mean, no disrespect, but now we're actually going to be playing a competent quarterback who loves to move around in the pocket. And Iowa State, I mean, historically hasn't been terrific against fast, mobile quarterbacks. So that's the biggest thing for me I want to see on defense. Offensively, I kind of highlighted it. Like, this team gives up 233 yards on the ground in Arkansas State. So what does Taylor Mauser do as an offensive coordinator? Does he come out and throw again like he did on North Dakota? We try to score in 2 plays on the first possession? Or does this team try to come out and run the football a bunch? It's interesting because you look at all of our previous offensive coordinators, you just look at Matt Campbell's tenure at Iowa State. September has always been a slow start for the offense. Has it been a slow start so far this year? You could say yes and no. I mean, you thought you probably could have put up more points against North Dakota. The first half in the Iowa game was not what you expected offensively. The second half was what you more expected. So are they going to pick up where they left off in the second half, or is this going to be like a bye week, kind of slow and methodical, just trying to run the ball and assert our dominance? Again, if you listen to my co-host Justin and I on this podcast, we've seen this story too many times before, where we try to go out there and just go run, 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 and it doesn't matter if you're playing Ohio or Kansas or Texas. Like Iowa State just really hasn't been able to have that push up front where they can establish running the football first. So I would love if Iowa State gets out there, gets Rocco comfortable, and let's throw 5 times on the first possession. I don't know how many plays we'll get, but let's throw 5, 6, 7 times. Let's go down there and score on that first possession to get things going again. Iowa State, obviously, I have them winning. Do they cover? If you're going to put your real money on this, good for you. I'm staying away from that. 21 right now, I'm going to say Iowa State covers. I think they were Arkansas State was a 23 point underdog going to Michigan. Obviously, they covered there. I say Iowa State covers in the fact that the score should have been larger against Michigan for Arkansas State. Like, I think Iowa State's offense is much farther ahead and has a much more competent quarterback than what Michigan does right now. And I think that catches Arkansas State a little bit off guard. I think Arkansas State goes in there and they kind of, puff their chest a little bit, said, "Hey, we held our own in the big house. We held our own against Michigan." That's just brand, man. Like their offense is not as good as Iowa State's. Now, Michigan's defense might be better, maybe. The defensive line's surely better at Michigan, but Iowa State can really take care of this team. I don't know where they're sitting at. I got their schedule pulled up in front of me. After this trip to Ames, they have a bye week before they play South Alabama at home. So you kind of wonder the mindset of Arkansas State. Do they think that let's just take our check, let's take our check and go home? If there's Iowa State fans here that are have some PTSD from the Ohio game last year, I speak with confidence to just not worry about it. Ohio was much better last year. Their quarterback was really good, in Curtis Rourke, who plays for Indiana now. Ohio's defense last year was one of the best in the G5. We all know this is a terrible defense in Arkansas State. Let's throw it back. Let's give you some historical things to bank on. Like, remember ULM, Louisiana Monroe, that came to town? I think that was 2019 too? Now, that Louisiana Monroe team is probably a lot worse than this Arkansas State team, but pretty similar. Like, you're not really certain what they have offensively, if anything, any identity. And the defense is really, really poor. I think this is a chance for Iowa State. I want to see try some new things, like be creative, throw a ton with Rocco, because I want this offense all buttoned up before we travel to Houston in a week. Because I do think that's a trap game, man. That's a trap game before an October that has big implications for Iowa State. Watching some of the Big 12 stuff last weekend, all the teams are playing conference games this weekend besides Iowa State. We're going to find out really where Iowa State could stand in the middle of this conference after Saturday's game. So really excited to see that. I got Iowa State winning and covering. Let's go 45-20. Iowa State wins. I do think they get some touchdowns in the end against our second and third string guys, because those quarterbacks they're good enough to do that, but it's not going to concern me against our first string defense. Really excited to see what the defense does and accepts the challenge there. Again, 45-20 is what I have for Iowa State winning. Drop a comment below what your guys' score prediction is, and maybe we'll get you an awesome No Rivals hat after Saturday. Not a ton to get into on this episode. We kept it short, but that is the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I think if you're like us, you're just excited to get back in Jack Trice Stadium and watch the Cyclones again this Saturday, because we missed it after an awesome win, right? I will not be in Jack Trice Stadium. My brother Justin will. He will join me next week. We're going to be back. We'll cover a little bit of this game. Hopefully we don't have too much to talk about when we recap it. And then we're all in for Big 12 play as the Cyclones travel to Houston next week. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like this video, subscribe to our channel. We bring you guys weekly episodes that Play the Fight Song, the college football show, each and every single Wednesday, previewing week 4 this week. And go back to our channel. We highlighted week 3, an awesome week 3 in our Sunday recap as well. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Drop a score prediction. shopnorivals.com. Use the code PTFS. My name is Jake. We will see you guys next week. And as always, you know what I have to send it out for. Go Cyclones.